Those goddamn time-traveling robots. So we just saw Terminator Genisys.
Yes, we haven't even talked about the movie at all yet.
No, I have no idea what he's going to say, and he has no idea what I'm going to say. And I just want to hear what he has to say. You know, because I feel like I just witnessed something like, you see something crazy and you need a fellow human being to like help
to play off of.
Like just to like,
be like, what the fuck did we just
like
see?
what the hell did I just see? Did you see that? You know what I mean? Like something crazy happens. Did you see that?
Before we really talk about it, because this is the thing I've been thinking about, because we just saw the movie like a half hour ago. I feel like the thing that you're probably going to say about this movie, I want to know if this is what you're planning to say. I feel like that what you're going to say is that the robots, it was a lot of CGI, and you think that the original Terminator, the robots, because they had animatronics and whatever, had weight to them, and these robots do not have the weight to them. I feel like you're going to say that.
That's true. I wasn't going to, but that's true.
Right.
I agree.
Okay. You weren't going there?
I agree with it. It's hard. Like these days, they don't ever get the robot kind of feel as right. It always kind of seems like it's this weightless sort of CG thing.
Because I do remember that you did the Terminator reviews of the first 3 or 4 movies a while back, and I remember you saying that. And as I was watching the movie, I'm like, James is going to have a problem with the weight of the robots.
Yeah, I mean, not so bad. Not as bad as Transformers, but
yeah.
I mean, I
those
think
like Optimus Prime flipping around.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good job for what it is.
Yeah,
but seeing something that actually is a robot that actually acts in front of the camera, interacts with the actors, is a lot more of an awesome thing. Yeah, definitely see my reviews of the first 4 Terminators, which I did a while ago. I don't even remember what I said about Terminator Salvation, but I watched them all again leading up to this because, hey, how often do you get to see a brand new Terminator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
It is crazy that Arnold Schwarzenegger is in the movie, and I was thinking to myself, going into this, what's going to be their explanation of how they explain him aging? And pretty much,
it's interesting.
It's interesting. I don't know if I'll say
it's simple.
It's
for
simple.
The aging thing.
I thought it was a good explanation, because I always wondered that the idea of like robots aging. I always thought the same thing for Data in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like if he's gonna get older, like if they were still making those movies now, and what are they gonna do? I always thought they gave him an emotion chip.
Yeah.
Why not give him an aging chip? That's not what they do in Terminator Genisys or Genisys.
This is a complete first impression that we just got back from seeing the movie, and we've been trying to do some more of these. But when I saw Terminator Salvation, I don't remember what I said about that, but that was a first impression kind of review too. And I watched all the movies again recently, and 1 and 2 are still amazing. They hold up so well.
What James means... sorry.
Basically, just what I'm getting at is that your opinion changes too. So it's like, I don't really know what to say about this one right now, because I'm probably going to change my mind. I don't know, because Terminator Salvation, I watched it again and I was like, this just isn't that awesome,
By the way, what James means about a first impression video, like we just did one of Jurassic World, it's the difference between sitting down on a computer and writing a script and really thinking about what you're saying, as opposed to we just saw the movie and it's like, boom, like this is just what we think right off the top of our heads. Because sometimes if you're just saying something right off the bat, you might want to go back and sort of reword what you're saying and think about what you're saying a little deeper.
Yeah, it's hard in the beginning. Just for anybody who wanted to know, what the basic premise of the movie is that it sort of starts out with everything that we already knew. Almost kind of starts like a reboot of just showing the future with the war against the machines, and then they send Kyle Reese back, and it's everything we already knew. But then the big twist is that there was a Terminator that was sent back, another T-800, a Model 101 T-800 that was sent back earlier than the one in the first Terminator. And then also Sarah Connor is already trained in combat at an earlier age and everything, and she's visited
earlier as a child.
Yeah, and it's like the thing with the Terminator movies is that one and 2 really, they stand by themselves, and the second one really tied the bow really tight. It ended the whole thing. But then Terminator 3 basically was the first one to open up the idea that's like, hey, you know what? fuck it, we could just keep making these movies till the end of time. If Skynet just keeps sending back Terminators constantly,
and that's what they're
doing. The Resistance is sending back Terminators constantly. It's just kind of like it's like a big fucking chess, it's like a chess mess of just time travel and absurdity.
How I would explain this movie is that it's like you have Back to the Future, and then you have Back to the Future 2, where Marty McFly goes back and visits the events of the first movie. That's what they do here. They use literal clips from the original Terminator movie, combined with CG.
There's a part
all that
in the beginning when they first start showing all the Terminator footage. I was just thinking, like, you know, they should just play the whole first.
Might as well just play the Terminator. It's a better movie.
Like we're sitting in the theater watching. It's like the same exact footage. Yeah. Although they cropped Arnold's ass more in this one. Like they didn't like, because I guess
nobody needs
a different
to see
aspect ratio. Aspect ratio. But I think they could have done more with that idea of going back to the events of the other movies.
Right.
I think there's a lot of potential in that they didn't really. It eventually sort of became its own mess and not like...
Yeah, it would have been nice if they would have just stuck to one idea. It seems to be the problem with a lot of movies these days. They just are doing too damn much. And when there's too much going on, you can't get invested enough in one storyline and stick with one thing. Like, there can be multiple things going on.
That can be funny, like, if it was done in a funny way.
Yeah, but there's just too much.
It's not a comedy
instead of
series,
having 10 different plots going on, have, like, 3 different plots going on, you know, and then build them up more and make you care about it a little bit more, because there's like you got this going on, you got that going on, and it just gets to the point where there's helicopters flying around and things blowing up, and I'm just like, I don't care, because it's just too much. Where Terminator 2, there's a lot going on in that movie, but it's not so over the top that you're taken out of it because you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. It's the action scenes weren't just action. It's like you actually cared about what was going on more.
And by the way, how long ago was Terminator 2? And when we were kids, 1991, is it?
91 or 92.
91 or 92?
I'm thinking 92.
It's been that long. We were like 11, 12 years old since we saw that. And the T-1000 is the liquid metal one, right?
Yeah.
That was amazing back then, those effects. I have to say, it's this much longer now, and it doesn't look any better than it did in 1991.
That's how I feel about Jurassic World. It didn't look any better than it did back then, you know?
It's like, come on, like, make it better. I guess the next version of the Terminator is John Connor in this movie. And he's sort of
Go ahead, just say.
You don't want to give that
Well, that's
away.
okay, but I would think that, like, that's... You know, more than halfway through when that's a big twist. But
I mean,
I could try
edit
to
this
find
part or something.
Or,
I'll say it in a different way.
Okay.
So there's another Terminator in this movie, and you know, Terminator. You have the liquid metal one, and then in Terminator 3 there was the girl, and she was like the updated version of it, right? Sort of.
This movie updated, sort of. I mean, it was had advantages, but
right. This movie sort of does the same thing. It's like you have the liquid metal Terminator, and then there's a new Terminator. And it's funny to think that like the original T-800 Arnold Schwarzenegger model is fighting all these more advanced Terminator models, and he always wins. But you would think he would get his fucking ass kicked, really. If you put like a T-1000 versus a T-800, he's gonna die. But I guess the idea is that Arnold Schwarzenegger version, the T-800, has enough experience that he's smarter than these no matter what new Terminator comes along, he's gonna kick their ass. For one thing, because he has more experience, and number two, because he's Arnold Schwarzenegger and he's gonna kick their ass. So
and, I mean, you want the odds against the hero. You want it to be more like there's a challenge,
right?
You know,
of course,
but it just depends how it's done.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, when was the last time legitimately you felt blown away by an action movie, like a summer blockbuster type of science fiction action adventure movie? Like, are we really getting numb to it, or like?
I'm so numb to it. I hate to say. And it's funny if you're talking about like going to the movie theater specifically. It's like they keep adding things into the movie theaters these days. Now they got like these lounge chairs and you can put your feet up. And next thing, some theaters I've even heard now. I haven't been to one yet, but they serve alcohol and food, and obviously you can get popcorn. But I mean like when you're sitting there, they like,
finally
serve you
figured
food
that
and
out.
everything.
Oh, people want to drink when they watch a movie,
right? And we talked about for a long time them bringing back, because in 1983 was it there was like the 3D craze, and then of course over the last whatever.
Well, it was in the 50s, the 80s, and then now. So it's basically like every 30 years 3D comes in.
What was it like? Avatar? They started bringing the 3D back around that time, and now 3D is like a thing.
But yeah, it was around that time when it started.
So it's just like gimmick after gimmick after gimmick to get people into the movie theater, and it's like, at a certain point, they're gonna run out of things to get people into the theater,
and that's sad that
that
theaters are dying. I guess they're dying. I don't know, but we were seeing how many people were in the theater when we saw it. Like
there was like 10 people in the movie theater, and the movie came out yesterday.
Came out like last night
or something. You would think the theater. It's a Terminator movie.
This is Wednesday.
The theater should be packed, and there was like not many people in there, and it was like. It was kind of sad.
I'm sorry. Is it Wednesday? Is it Thursday? I don't even know.
It's still Wednesday right now.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's Thursday right now. It's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, we don't know.
We can cut that.
That's okay. We saw the trailer for Creed. Got to get that out of the way. So.
Okay, you got your action movie stars.
Rocky Balboa is coming back.
Yeah.
And they were in Philly this past winter filming it.
It's 2015. We're going to the theater. We're seeing an old Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we're seeing an old Rocky.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous, but like with Rocky, it makes a little more sense, I guess. I suppose, but like seeing an old Terminator is just like, that's the kind of thing we joked about when we were kids. We were like, oh, when we're like 30 years old, we're gonna be going to the movie theater. We're gonna be seeing Rocky 10 and Terminator 25. Well, it's happening. We're here. It's not Terminator 25, but
we got to catch up for Jaws, because we need Jaws 19 for 2015, the hologram version.
Back to the Future,
yeah.
All these franchises, even Star Trek. I hear Shatner's maybe will be in the new. It's like it's ridiculous. All these old franchises that they're still trying to push them, and it's like. And the whole problem, they keep trying to push these franchises because they know Terminator's successful, they know Star Trek's successful, they know Star Wars is successful.
But at the same time, they're always afraid to make it a straight-up sequel. That they always have to kind of go for this sort of reboot kind of thing. Well, not so much. They make it like where it's a sequel, so for people coming back, they can follow it that this is a sequel, but also that they're trying to target people who are going to see that one who've never seen the old ones, and they kind of have to re-explain everything to you, and it's always kind of like setting it up all over again. You know what I mean?
That's what Jurassic World was. It was like it was old, but it was new. That's what the Star Trek thing is. It's old, but it's new.
Yeah.
This movie, it's the old and it's the new. It's like they keep you're onto something there, and the whole thing is. They need some goddamn originality. And it's the same problem with video games, actually, these days. It's like all these big companies only want to invest a lot of money into something if they know it's going to bring a return. Like, with Nintendo, they're always going to have your Legend of Zeldas and your Marios. And with the movie theaters, they always want their Marvel movies, because they know, like, Spider-Man sells and Batman sells. And it's a big a big fucking problem with video games, and it's a big fucking problem with movies. With video games, it's indie developers. Indie games, that's where you're getting your originality. And with movies and stuff, it's indie filmmakers, and it's people on YouTube coming up with new creative things. Honestly, that's where the originality is coming from. I think really
the movie industry's got so big that
it's too big for its britches. And I
movies
remember
are getting more and more expensive all the time, and that's why they're trying to
And this is the same thing, actually. Steven Spielberg and I think George Lucas came out a few years ago, and they basically said something along the lines of what we're saying.
Oh yeah.
So it's not, and that's them saying it, So maybe we could find that clip. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. But
was it like an interview or?
It was some kind of interview or statement, and they're like, "Listen, like these movies are getting so big that like if there's one or two failures, like these companies are going to go under because if they spend $1 billion and the movie tanks." So, like, that's a big fucking problem.
Yeah.
So, Hollywood needs to make, give like every fucking movie that you go see doesn't have to cost $80 bazillion, which was kind of the point.
200 million a lot of times.
Right.
That seems to be like the price for like a lot of these.
Yeah.
And they can be more. I think
a lot more.
Some of them are like 300 million.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
So it's no wonder why they're trying so hard to like recoup all those costs.
Okay, so sometimes I like time travel movies, sometimes I don't. Obviously, the big example is probably Back to the Future.
Oh, speaking of Back to the Future, happy 30th anniversary to Back to the Future, released July 3rd, 1985.
Great movie. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite movies of all time. That's, your time travel sort of...
Oh, that's the gold standard.
That's the gold standard. That's
and it's funny. It's also, like, it's a great science fiction. It's a great action-adventure movie, but it's also very funny.
You know what's great about Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3? Mm-hmm. Is that, for the most part, the time travel elements of it stand up. You can go back to all the elements and be like, okay, that holds water. That made sense. Mm-hmm. This movie, it was like, what the fuck's going on?
I'd have to see it again. I have to give some thought into it because I just saw it. But how many things that kind of bugged me where I was just kind of like, well, let's see. So, okay, there's a date of Judgment Day. Why do they have to go to that date? Can't they just, deal with it earlier? Why does it have to be like, you got to go to right when the clock is about to count down? And
it was like the day before or something. How about go to 5 years before? Like, yeah, exactly.
They were already like, well,
Here's what I think. I think the movie was an absolute fucking mess. But I think that it's always...
Here's the thing.
Wait, I want to say something positive, though.
Yeah.
I don't really give a shit. Because all I really want to see, in my opinion, I want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator kicking ass. And, okay, yes, I want to see, like, something as good as James Cameron can do and, direct an awesome movie. And if you go back to the original Terminator and then Terminator 2, those are great fucking movies. Mm-hmm. But going into this movie, I didn't expect it to. It's not going to be Terminator 2.
Neither one of us expect it. Because Terminator 1 and 2 set the bar so high. It was impossible to make anything half as good as that. And but still we're excited. It's like, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger in a new Terminator movie.
But I did want to say, so a more recent example than Back to the Future, I really liked, and I know it didn't follow the comics and all that, but as a movie on its own, I really liked X-Men First Class, and then I really liked Days of Future Past, which didn't follow the comics or whatever, but as a movie, I liked it, and I thought it was fairly well done time travel. There's a recent example of time travel done pretty good. So it's not like it can't be done well this day and age, but this movie, I don't know what they did with it. It was a big mess.
Yeah. Now, see, I can only think of two things off the top of my head that I think I should mention that I liked about it was that as you see in the trailer, the old Terminator fights the young Terminator. And that is cool to see Arnold against Arnold.
Yes.
But it's only a small part of the movie. I wish that there was more to
that should have been the end of the movie, and it wasn't. It was like a short scene in the beginning.
That would have been like that was the most exciting part of the whole movie. But if it was saved till later or expanded into a bigger part of the movie, that would have been really cool. The other thing I kind of liked was how they took Skynet, and Skynet is now being called Genisys, which is this... It's this operating system that everybody's going to download that connects all of, like, it was somehow like it's going to connect every kind of gadget they have, every kind of piece of technology, and it's
I feel like they were trying to make a statement like, it's like your cell phones, guys, or whatever.
Well, they brought, because before that, Skynet was always a military thing. It was always just like computer guided missiles, and just the computers control all of the military machines. But now they kind of brought Skynet down to a consumer level, where now it's like everybody is sort of going to be like feeding into this big giant that's going to destroy us all. That I thought was kind of cool. I want to talk about the comedy in it a bit, actually, because as I was thinking about it, I thought, you know what? If they made it more, because these movies all have humor. They all had humor to them, but the humor in, I think, the first three was actually pretty witty. Like, even the third Terminator had some really good, like, humor where, he's like, your levity is good, it relieves tension in the face of death or
right.
whatever.
There were some
you know,
good parts like that. That's true.
Yeah, like that. The Terminator really he does not understand human emotions, and they kind of play that up. They make it really funny. And
one joke that I like that they did in this movie is when his hand's shaking and he's like old. That's all he says. Like he didn't need to say more than that. Well, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, well, a lot of like this one, because nowadays, because like we said, movies are so desperate to appeal to worldwide audiences. They have to make jokes that appeal to anybody on the most basic level. So now the jokes are just reduced to, like, you talk too much, you know, like stuff like that. It's like this very simple kind of dumbed down, you know.
Right.
And also the biggest recurring gag in the movie, which I won't go into like detail, but basically it's like the Terminator's smile, which was a deleted scene in Terminator 2, where they try to teach the Terminator how to smile. So the recurring gag in this one is a deleted scene from Terminator 2. So
that'll tell you something right there.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I want to go back to something I said though, because I feel two different sort of ways. Yes, like an important thing to me is like to see like Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. Like that's super entertaining, and that's what we always know from the classic Terminator movies. So I was happy to see that, but at the same time, I feel like couldn't there be a different Terminator plot? Because we always have the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing with John Connor and Sarah Connor. And it's always that same sort of plot over and over. They're mixing it up and changing it, but it's like, aren't there other people and other things that can be going on with all these? Think about those Terminator. There's a war of robots, and we have to always focus on these couple characters. Isn't there another like story that can be told? And I know there's like a TV series and whatever, and there's books and everything. So I'm sure other stories have been told.
Bear did the music.
Okay, yeah.
Bear McCreary.
But you know,
yeah, I thought that. Because the first three were a little too similar. Where I mean, no, the first two I have to say were like perfect for what they did. They both complemented each other. But then the third one was the first where it was like, okay, like didn't we see this already? And then Salvation was like, okay, we're finally in the future now. Look, you know, for the whole movie.
Right.
And then it's like, you know, it still didn't feel different. This one is kind of like, okay, let's really be different this time. But it's desperately different. It's kind of like, let's just throw everything at it and just make it like...
There's helicopters, there's buses flying off of the bridge, and it's like...
But still, even the action wasn't that... The last one where I was really wowed by the action was
Terminator
3, actually. I'm talking about action, not as like... Terminator 3 was an okay movie, but the action in the third one was incredible. Like when he's hanging on the crane and they're smashing everything. All the cars are just piling into each other. Like, you know, that was all good for action, you know.
But you didn't feel anything.
This one, not as much. I mean, there was cool stuff, but it didn't... Again, it just felt like everything is so digital and, you know...
This movie definitely did not emotionally move me at all. Terminator 2 does.
That's a very emotionally moving movie, yeah.
It's like whether we can sit here all day and say this, but you know, no matter what the fuck we say in this little YouTube video, there's gonna be another Rambo movie, there's gonna be another Rocky, all these franchises. No matter what we say,
and I'll go see them. I'll go see them.
They're gonna make these movies until the whole fucking industry crumbles, and we're left with movie theaters going out of business because the movies got too big for their britches, and then the whole thing's
sad
come
because
down.
You know, I love the movie theaters. That's kind of like, you know, that's how
we're trying to like let Hollywood know like what to do, like bring in some new fucking ideas and like get smart about it, because this shit's going away. Like the movie theaters are going to become, I'm not saying tomorrow or in the next year, but eventually movie theaters are going to become a thing of the past. They're going to become drive-in movie theaters, which are like extinct now, and it's
there's some drive-in theaters around. I've never been to one, but there's been some popping up recently because people are nostalgic. People like to see movies outdoors, like Joe Bob Briggs.
Joe Bob's awesome.
Yeah, oh yeah. He's like, fuck this shit. That's what he would say.
Joe Bob would be a lot more harsh than we are.
Yeah. I want to say something about the comedy potential in the movie. Like, if say you were to take this movie and make it a full blown comedy, you know what I mean? Like, because at times I felt like, you know what, this is kind of funny. Like I was seeing humor in the whole concept, and I was thinking
at this point the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, he's like 75 years old, fucking Terminator. It's ridiculous.
Well, I was thinking about how like the things that intrigue me the most about time travel in recent years are comedies. There's a show called Rick and Morty, which is hilarious, and it deals with time travel a lot, and the plots get really convoluted and become a mess, but they're a mess in a funny way where that's the whole idea. And
like the Family Guy episodes.
There's a lot of Family Guy episodes that have these really clever time travel episodes.
They do
which
well.
They're funny, but they're also really clever. And even Hot Tub Time Machine had some really funny moments. I haven't seen. There's a second one I think now, but I've only seen the first one.
Seen them. Yeah.
And I remember one of the funniest jokes about the Hot Tub Time Machine was there's a guy with a missing arm, I think, and they go back to the past and he has the arm, and the whole time that they draw out this suspense, like how does he lose the arm? Like are we going to see that happen? And then every once in a while something happens where they almost lose the arm and it doesn't happen. And then eventually I think it happens with something really stupid. But this time a lot of the humor I think came from Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, are the parents of John Connor. And basically, they're supposed to have sex somewhere in there. And the whole time, it's like, the Terminator's like, did you mate yet? And the whole time I was thinking, you know what? I was thinking of like every kind of situation where it could have happened like very randomly. Like in the middle of like an action scene, they're hanging upside down. Like they're hanging upside down on something. I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if they just fucked right there? Just like, so I think that there's a lot of comedy potential in time travel, and then going back to events before they took place and then trying to see that they happen. You know
what I'm kind of annoyed by with all these big movies and the time travel? Like there's so many movies now that do time travel. Like there's other ways to do science fiction and interesting plots. Does anybody remember the Twilight Zone? Like, there were so many goddamn original, awesome ideas in that show.
That's some great writing right there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of writers on that show, but that was a really clever show.
I mean, I'm pretty sick of time travel. Once in a while, you come up with something really good, fine, but it's like, there's so many awesome ideas out there that can be done, and it's just being so squandered on shitty reboots and prequels and sequels, and just, it's garbage. There's so much garbage out there, and it's so sad because there's so many great ideas that are just never gonna come to pass or be seen because gotta make that next Batman movie, gotta make that next Terminator movie.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I'm just gonna go watch the Twilight Zone.
Okay,
screw this.
All right, go ahead. So I it's first impression. I have to see it again some point. I mean, not for a while, but like. I think we might go back and talk about it here and there, but unfortunately, I think it's going to kind of like fade a little bit, like Terminator Salvation, how people don't really talk about it as much anymore. I'm curious a little more about the making of it. There is a cool book coming out called Terminator Genisys: Resetting the Future, and it goes into a lot of the production design, the special effects of it. So I'm always interested in all like the preliminary sketches and everything, and all like the. So I'm really more into like the making of the movies than the movies themselves.
I do have to say there was a part in the movie. There's a little kid who plays the young Kyle Reese, and he has like a laptop thing. It's like the countdown of Genesis. And when he opens the box and it says Genesis, I'm like, oh, he's getting a Sega Genesis.
He's getting a Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
Or it could be, then the Klingons show up and then the Klingons want it.
Right.
Give me Genesis.
Christopher Lloyd could have cameoed as Doc Brown.
As Doc Brown. And
See? It could have been an awesome time travel comedy.
1955 when he hit his head in the toilet and came up with the idea of the flux capacitor. See, I think this movie should have been Back to the Future and Star Trek 3 and everything all rolled into one. I think we could have had the ultimate...
That's the next Terminator movie. Just combine all the franchises.
You know what? Combine it, but you know what would be awesome is if they didn't even tell us. If we didn't know till we saw the movie.
Well,
Could you imagine?
Disney is pretty much going to own all these companies at this point if they already don't. So they'll be able to do that pretty soon.
Hurry up, Disney, buy everything.
They didn't buy Batman yet, right? That'll be soon.
Well, once that happens, then you could actually have DC and Marvel characters together. Like, what are you going to have? Justice League, Avengers?
How long do you think it'll be until Disney buys Nintendo and DC? I give it a week at this rate. It's ridiculous. They own everything.
Yeah, so how does Terminator Genisys hold up? I don't know. I really just don't. It's just too early right now. But I'd say it's kind of like on the same level as Terminator Salvation. Like, I don't know.
I think the movie was a mess. I'm gonna forget it in a week.
Okay.
I love the. I want to end.
In a week, I'll ask you about it again.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, Mike, you remember that movie?
I already forget it. But you know what I do remember? Terminator 2 and the original. They were
yeah.
great fucking movies, and I would sit and watch that right now. In fact, I want to cleanse my palate and watch Terminator 2.
Well, I watched them all like last week, and they hold up. 1 and 2 are amazing.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to say is happy 30th anniversary, Back to the Future. Happy 4th of July, by the way, and enjoy the new Board James episode, Wacky Blasters. It's a simple one, back to basics.